Welcome back to the channel. Today we are reacting to Diahann Carroll discussing the different things that she went through within the industry, the battles that she had to overcome. Please tell me your thoughts about this video in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.
Born in New York City, she took Broadway and Hollywood by storm as a consummate entertainer and star of stage and screen. Her name, Diahann Carroll. From the Broadway musical No Strings to the television hit series Julia and the nighttime soap opera Dynasty, her career has been legendary. The History Makers, the nation's largest African-American video oral history archive, is proud to present An Evening with Diahann Carroll. And now to our host, veteran PBS TV journalist, Miss Gwen Ifill.
Every once in a while, when I'm walking down the street, especially in Washington, a little black girl will come up to me and say, "I know you." She wants to talk to me. She wants to touch me. She wants to see, basically, if I'm real. Well, tonight, I am that little black girl, except that I'm in the presence of true greatness. I get to find out whether Diahann Carroll talks, walks. I get to touch her. I get to see if she's real, and so do you. And I have a little hint. Boy, is she ever. She is a living legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Diahann Carroll.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. How nice to see you. Mwah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow.
That's very nice, isn't it?
Oh, I think you have some fans in the room.
Oh, that's lovely. It's a beautiful sound.
Carol Diane Johnson.
Oh, my heavens.
Oh, yes. This is your original name.
That's right.
You were born in Harlem. Tell us about your growing up.
Actually, it was almost fairy tale. I had two loving parents. Very, very involved with making me happy, trying to educate me. And 13 years later, I had a sister. But she really was like my doll, my play doll. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed that. I learned a great deal about having a child in the house, a younger child in the house, that you allow to live. Kill. But really, it was my parents. I will always be grateful for the support that they offered, and the love and the care. Was a very important time, of course, for all of us. It always is. But when you have parents who tell you that the world is yours, that's pretty special.
Was that where you had your first exposure to the arts, to music?
Yes. My mother felt that it was important for me to see what New York had to offer. My mother's from North Carolina, and she felt that New York was a special place that had all kinds of interesting levels of culture, and so she exposed me. She was always about what is there that will encourage her, that will expose her to whatever it is that she may need. It was wonderful. We had a ball. We actually were pals.
You had other strong women in your growing up. Your grandmother, your aunt?
Yes, my grandmother was 5 women in one. She lost my grandfather when my mother was 9. And she had several boys and 3 girls. And she raised all of them alone. She had a cotton farm. She also had hogs.
Were you involved in picking any of that cotton?
I tried.
Oh.
I really tried. My grandmother didn't want me to try, but I tried, and I picked 13 cents worth of cotton.
And she thought it was better not to ask you to do that again.
Don't. But the thing about it, they never tell you this, but you know, your hands bleed so easily when you're picking cotton that I thought my grandmother was right. I should stay on the porch and let it be done by. But it was a great experience. I've always felt separated in so many ways, for so many reasons. And when I think about the fact that my grandmother said to the members of the community where she lived, my granddaughter's not going to do that. I've often questioned whether she was under the impression that she was protecting me or making me understand that I should reach higher. She never made that clear, but I think I prefer to believe that she was just trying to make me feel that I should reach higher. She's a very, very strong-willed woman. She collected money in church that sent my mother to prep school. And she didn't have the money to buy my mother a winter coat, but she insisted that she go to a place called Palmer Institute in the South. You've heard of it, huh? Well, that's where she went.
There are a lot of people who identify with you telling the tale of a strong grandmother, someone who's strong in your life. But somehow there's got to be a big leap involved in spending summers in North Carolina and living in Harlem, and all of a sudden graduating to your first job in Jet magazine, which we know, of course, is punching the ticket, Jet magazine.
Be sure to tell me about your first job.
Yes, my first photo, Mr. Johnson allowed me to begin to work in his publications, Ebony Tan Jet. And there was a wonderful woman in New York by the name of Ophelia DeVore who helped to prepare me for it.
But still, that was your first big effort. You were actually modeling. You were modeling what?
Well, I modeled everything, really. But I do remember, and I know you've heard me, my father was not, he didn't really approve of this. Modeling was not an occupation for a lady, not a good Southern Baptist lady. And I think on my first shoot, I modeled lingerie. And my father saw the pictures, and there was a big hoop thing that went under our clothes at that time that made our skirts. And my father was furious, absolutely furious.
It doesn't sound like there was that much of you showing.
No.
That wasn't the point.
I mean, according to today, I was fully dressed. Very strict, you know, you don't pluck your eyebrows, you shouldn't really wear lipstick. And that was the atmosphere at home. Later, when I grew older, I realized that that's how most parents at that time treated their children.
Did you find yourself doing what we all do, which is treating our children the way we thought was ridiculous when we were children?
I have to confess, I was pretty, I moved a step further. I was not as bad as the Southern Baptists. Ooh, that was strict. But yes, I was kind of very serious about what went on in our home and how I wanted to see this young lady develop, my daughter.
As we speak tonight, we're going to roll some clips of your entertainment career, because I think it pushes buttons probably not only for you, but certainly for the rest of us.
Oh.
Your first big break it made American Idol look like nothing. Think back, because the older people in the room will remember this. It was
Thanks
American
a lot,
Idol. Oops. Oops. No, I mean the more mature.
Thank you.
It was American Idol before American Idol was cool.
Right. Yes.
Let's take a look.
Oh.
Things began to skyrocket for young Diahann when she tried out for Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts in 1951. Diahann was invited back to Godfrey's weekly radio show for 3 weeks straight. During her freshman year at NYU, Diahann tried out for Chance of a Lifetime, where she captured the hearts and minds of audience members for 3 weeks in a row, winning her a $3,000 cash prize and a week's engagement at the Latin Quarter nightclub. That was just the break she was looking for. Diahann was now immersed within the topsy-turvy world of show business. Constantly working, she soon found that she had no time for her studies, so she dropped out of NYU, where she was attending college. Although she went out on auditions regularly, many casting directors counted her out as soon as they saw that she was black.
Things began to change when 19-year-old Diahann read for the part of Carmen in Otto Preminger's 1954 film production of Carmen Jones. Although the role of Carmen ultimately went to Dorothy Dandridge, Diahann made such an impression on Preminger that she was cast alongside Pearl Bailey as one of Carmen's thrill-seeking sidekicks. A star was truly born.
I look at myself sometimes in photographs and I think, what was I thinking? Who was I?
And we haven't even gotten to the fashion in Julia yet.
Oh, okay, yes, that's coming.
How much did you earn for your first gig?
My first modeling, that was my first gig, was modeling. And I brought home a check for $600 for the day's work. My father didn't like that. My father's a very interesting man.
Sounds like it.
He didn't like that. And all of this business about, well, you know, it was not exactly ladylike and it looked almost sinful. And I said, yes, Dad, but I got paid well.
You got paid at all?
Yes.
That clip raised many interesting questions, including what it must have been like to be a beautiful black woman in the 1950s trying to break into the entertainment business. Clearly, you were before your time.
I will not argue with that. I really will not. It was very difficult. There were so many avenues that I had to cross, and I was dealing with people who had never dealt with a black person, much less a black person in show business, and a demanding black person. I was most assuredly clear about how I wanted to look, what I wanted to say, what roles were correct for me, and there are people who had great difficulty with that. But I knew each time that I had the support of these two parents. My father placed a round-trip airline ticket from Los Angeles to New York, and he said, that's to be used anytime you are uncomfortable. That was a wonderful gift.
People ask me a lot, do you feel affected by sexism or by racism, or which is the bigger ill in your life?
They're both pretty bad.
Yeah. In the 50s, though, how much of the reaction to you was that you were someone who knew what you wanted and you were demanding, or, you know, whatever words they use for demanding women, especially
Yes.
black women, and how much of it was that you were just simply black?
It was such a combination of the two. And I was also clear. If I was in the presence of someone, we were having a meeting, and I realized that what was taking place was not what was really taking place, that it was something else. And the meeting was a guise to get me there for whatever. I always said, you know, my parents drive me to all of my meetings, and they're always waiting downstairs in the car. And on several occasions, I was told, well, that's not necessary. You know, we can send you home in a car. I said, well, they're not going to leave. They don't leave. They just don't leave. And I found that that was very important for me to be able to say that at the moment that it was uncomfortable for everyone, the one who was approaching in an inappropriate manner, and for me. It was great safety in that. Yes, it was hard in the 50s because sexually we were all so naive. And a black woman represented something that you could feel it everywhere, tried to capture, because at that time, our information about each other was that black women were different.
Exotic.
Oh, yes. Just to be, I mean, you don't marry them, but you certainly pursue them. It's an excitement. It was ridiculous. And it was truly ridiculous. But it became, as we moved along and we became more of an integrated society, and something like television, wonderful television, introduced us to each other in different ways. So we had different responses because of exposure to each other. It was amazing to me as I moved out into the community to find out how many people didn't know anything about me at all. Not my parents, not my family, not my community, not anything. And I used to say to them, don't you even have somebody to clean your house that's black? You have never seen a black person? I mean, find a way to relate to me. I had to do that very often, working with writers and producers. And look at me, I am what I am. I'm not pretending. I'm not pretending. I don't know what your conception, what you thought. But this is who I am. Let's work with it.
Let's talk about who you became. Why did you change your name?
I changed my name because when I was in school, a friend of mine approached me. Her name was Alyssa Oppenheimer, and she wanted us to go on the Arthur Godfrey show. And as we started rehearsing and making plans, we decided that the name Oppenheimer and Johnson was really not too pretty. So she called me that night when she went home. She said, "I'm going to be Lisa Collins." I said, "Okay." And she said, "I'd like you to be Diahann Carroll." Now, that's one of the first times in my life that I didn't stop to consider in a more profound way that I might be stuck with this name for the rest of my life. So I said, that's fine. They were very happy to see us, two little girls from school, and she played tenderly, and I sang tenderly. They accepted me, and I was on the Arthur Godfrey show for a while, but really, the truth of it is, Arthur Godfrey thought my mother was so pretty, he was insisting that I come back on the show.
Really?
Yes, it had much more to do with that than anything.
Well, sometimes these things work. So tell us, I don't know whatever happened to Lisa Collins, but we know what happened to Diahann Carroll. Tell us about Carmen Jones.
Carmen Jones. I really did not want to audition for Carmen Jones. My parents' influence was really greater than you can ever imagine. And she was a tart. But thank heavens I had an agent who said, if you can get the role of this tart, I want you to take it. But I was much too young to really understand.
How old were you by then?
Oh, what, 19? 20? We'll go back, we'll count when we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I was very happy to be there because the atmosphere, the experience of being there with Carmen Jones was, first of all, Dorothy was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. She was very sweet, and Harry was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Now, of course, you're talking about Dorothy Dandridge and Harry Belafonte.
Yes, absolutely. And working there, I asked for permission from Otto Preminger if I could sit near him by the camera so that I could see and hear what he was saying and doing and why. And he liked that, so we became friends. And every day he'd say, "Where is String Bean?" At that time, I weighed about 119, 120 pounds, and I was this big. But he was encouraging. Why do you want to sit here? Why would you like to see what I'm doing? I said, I don't know. I don't know anything about directors. I don't know what it is. I want to find out. So the curiosity was enough for him to form a friendship.
So you're 19 years old, you're 20 years old. You begin to meet, to hang out with people whose names are now legends. Sammy Davis Jr., Marlon Brando. What was that like? Did you ever feel overwhelmed?
Yes. Yes, it was very, very heady stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought the best thing for me to do was to be quiet, to listen, to learn.
How'd you meet Marlon Brando? Tell us about him.
Marlon Brando was in Los Angeles shooting I don't know what, but Sammy Davis always had parties. Sammy had a party every day. Sammy had Wednesday parties and Friday evening parties, and everyone eventually walked through Sammy's accommodation. I thought I said that nicely.
Very nice.
And Sammy said to me, there's someone I want you to meet. And he took me through to the library over there, and there was Marlon. And I had such admiration for him, and I told him how it was wonderful to watch his films over and over, because there was so much that we'd never seen before on screen. And Sammy was going to have this wonderful romance. He was a matchmaker. But
let me know a movie that you can watch over and over again and never get tired of it.
after that evening, Marlon did a wonderful thing. He sent me a box of books about acting, singing, directing, and with a little note, "Dearest Diahann, go home."
Which meant?
He wanted me to leave California, go back to New York, and start working in the theater. And I call that a friend.
Not long after that, you got your first Tony nomination for House of Flowers. And then came Porgy and Bess. Let's watch a clip.
In 1954, Diahann landed the role of Ottilie in Truman Capote's play House of Flowers. She was nominated for her first Tony Award for her portrayal of the young West Indian woman who continues to remain virtuous despite living within a seedy bordello. During House of Flowers, Diahann met her future husband, Monty Kaye, a Brooklyn-born Jewish casting director with a passion for jazz. After settling into the married life, Diahann was offered to play the role of Clara in Samuel Goldwyn's movie version of Porgy and Bess. Feeling initial apprehensions about the part, Diahann's husband Monty convinced her to seize the moment and take it. In 1958, during production, Diahann met Sidney Poitier. The two were drawn to one another, despite the fact that they were both married. She tried to avoid Sidney Poitier after the birth of Suzanne Patricia Ottilie Kaye, but deep inside herself, she knew that she would eventually leave Monty. In 1960, she was offered the role of Connie Lamson in Paris Blues. When she found out she would be playing opposite Sidney Poitier,
I would say that you're one of them socially conscious chicks, right?
Home to me is home. My family is my family. And whatever problems they've got, I've got them too.
Diahann was now faced with a tough decision: betray her husband or betray her heart.
Now, Diahann, you know I'm a straight up ahead news person, right? And it's only because the audience is demanding this that I have to ask you about Sidney.
I'm delighted to have you ask me about Sidney, because I'm happy to say to everyone, we are still friends. We have maintained our friendship. My child knows his two daughters by his last marriage, and I think he even some of the children from the previous marriage. It was so long ago that I've maintained the memories that are good. He's a splendid human being. He's a wonderful actor. He is a good, thoughtful person when you have to talk something through that you're not really certain which direction to go. Sidney's the one to call, and I'm proud of that.
Tell me about Paris Blues.
Well, it was difficult because I had a new baby, and we were there shooting. I think Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward were going through exactly what Sidney Poitier and I were going through. It was amazing. We just couldn't believe that the four of us had landed in this movie while Paul's trying to free himself from so on and so forth, and Sidney's trying to free himself from so, and Joanne and I anyway, we became friends. We didn't have any choice. We wanted to know, how did you handle it? What did you say? What did you do? But it was great because Joanne is a great actress, and watching her was very important for me. She understood the camera. She understood how to work the camera, which is a special kind of art. And I just loved being there. It was uncomfortable, of course, from time to time, but it had not developed into anything that either one of us couldn't handle. So it was lovely being a part of Paris Blues. It was a growing time in Paris with dear friends and a good script. Duke Ellington's music, a fine director, Martin Ritt, and he forced us to, I don't like directors who don't make you do the work, but he did. He made us do the work. So actually it was a lovely time.
We're all going to rent that tonight. Let's talk about your husband, Monty Kaye. You married a white man in the 50s, and I have to say, that seems bold now. What was it like, or did it help or hurt or have any effect on your professional life to be a part of an interracial couple?
You know, I have interesting feelings about that period of time because Monty Kaye loved the sun lamp,
Which means?
that he was almost beige. And I have a dear friend whose name is Josephine Premise, and I called her and I said, oh, this is a very nice man, so on and so forth, and he was a casting director. And I think he's coming back next week, and we were on the road with a show called The House of Flowers.
Right.
And she said, I just want to make sure your parents know that he's white. I said, what? Where is he white? She said, I've known Monty for many years, and so on and so forth. And so I called Monty and I said, I don't know, my mom and dad, I don't really know how they're going. He said, ask them to forgive me for being white.
Did they?
Yes. Monty was an extraordinary man. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. I'm so happy I had my child with Monty Kaye.
You then went on to star and get your very big, first big professional triumph in Richard Rodgers' No Strings. Amazing musical. Let's watch a little bit of that part of your life.
In 1962, Diahann finally won the Tony Award for her role as Barbara Woodruff in Richard Rodgers' Broadway sensation, No Strings. In 1967, she met with writer-producer Hal Cantor about playing the role of Julia, a sitcom that he was developing about a young widowed single mother working as a nurse in the aerospace industry.
Now what?
Can't you leave now, Mom?
There is nothing sissy about a mother taking her son to a party.
Oh, Mom!
There's also nothing sissy about looking your best. If I do say so myself, you're a pretty sharp-looking fella.
Julia aired in September of 1968 and was a controversial hit. By October of 1968, the show was rated #1. In 1970, Diahann won a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a TV series. Despite this, no new acting roles came her way, and she began to feel the tire of working on a controversial hit TV show. While on hiatus from Julia, Diahann met British television host David Frost. The two hit it off, and David invited her to New York for an appearance on his talk show.
Though your friends forsake you, even though you don't succeed, wouldn't I be so glad to take you? I'd give you the break you need more than you know.
At the end of that season, Diahann opted not to renew her contract and asked to be released from Julia.
In 1974, Diahann was offered to play the lead in the film Claudine after Diana Sands collapsed on the set. 2 weeks later, Diana Sands died of terminal cancer. Diahann now devoted all of her time and energy to playing the role of Claudine.
Mr. Marshall, just have a seat. Kids, this is Mr. Marshall.
So what? You from the welfare?
No, he ain't from the welfare. Charles, please get out of that bathroom.
Mommy, you got a sinus class going on a trip.
Oh, not now, darling. Later. Did anybody clean that kitchen today?
I cleaned it. No, she
Her efforts were rewarded because in 1976, Diahann received word that she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress.
Let's talk about Julia, because that's when I fell in love with you.
Oh,
I mean, come
glad to
on.
hear that.
You were the kind of role model that made little black girls, as I was talking about,
yes.
just completely riveted. And a lot of little white girls, too.
Yes.
How did Julia come about?
Actually, there was a friend of mine connected to NBC. His name was David Tebbutt, and he was in charge, really, of casting. So I flew to California to meet Hal Cantor. Hal was sitting in the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills with the representative from 20th Century Fox and NBC. And he said, I'm telling you, this is not going to work. This woman wears beaded dresses and so on and so forth. And I walked in the door, Polo Lounge, and Hal said, you see, if she could look more like a housewife, like that, that's what we're looking for. And the producer said, well, thank God, because that's her. And he said, I've never seen her look like that. So we went and we started talking. I liked him immediately. I really liked him. I knew that Hal really wanted to do something, and I felt he was going to try. What he was not prepared for was the confrontation. But he wrote it well, and we both came out champions because there was so much he didn't know about them. I said, I can't say that, Hal. I mean, a little white girl could say that, but I can't say that. Why? I said, well, let's go to your office and we'll talk. And I'll explain it to you. Because you don't know nothing about black people. So let's go sit down and have a talk about it. And we did on so many occasions, and people expected to hear lamps being thrown and so on, but we never did. I said, if I'm wrong, you tell me, but don't dismiss me.
People don't remember now, perhaps, what a big deal Julia was at the time.
Julia made everybody angry. The black community was angry, the white community was angry.
Wait, back up. Why was the black community angry?
Because it wasn't telling it like it is. I got that a lot. And I said, well, it's very close to the way I was brought up. Very close. My mother's a nurse. And the other was, you know, who do we think we are? Hal and I, who do we think we are, reaching into something that untested waters, and we've overstepped our bounds. With all the criticism, I must say I ended up in the hospital. I lost an awful lot of weight, and it's just, you know, we call it today stress, but we call it.
Tell me your thoughts about the TV show Julia in the comments.
Everything stress today. But that was truly stress.
Are you surprised, even all these years later, that it is still, in many ways, your most recognizable role for so many people?
No, because it really was memorable. It really did make a difference. When you can affect the financial area, because then the studio had to pay attention to the fact that this made money, this attracted sponsors. And then when the community, for the most part, is very pleased with what you're doing, and it involves a black woman as a star, it was a memorable moment. We all, the audience as well as those of us who were creating it, were very aware that we were doing something that was important. I realized it as we started shooting. I didn't realize it when I left New York, I have to tell you.
In the end, you walked away from it. Why?
I was about to die. I was so tired.
Claudine. Now, it wasn't until I just saw that clip that I forgot about that Gladys Knight and the Pip song that was at the opening of the movie. But I remember everything else about it. How did that come about? Now, that was also completely against type, or whatever the type you were supposed to be.
Well, I never had a type in my head. I just wanted to do the work. I loved acting, I loved singing, and I thought if you can manage to look attractive while you're doing both, the audience will let you into their home, allow you to be there. There was a young woman signed to do Claudine. She had worked for years to produce Claudine. Her name was Diana Sands. We'd gone to elementary school together. I brought her on to, I brought her to do Julia. We did many segments together. 2 weeks after she went into rehearsal, they discovered, you know, that she had cancer. She knew she had cancer when she went into it, but she really wanted to try to get through this film because she had worked so hard to put it together. And when I learned that, she said to them, please send for Diahann Carroll. And they went to her and they said, are you nuts? You know, she can't do this. I mean, she said her gowns are going to cost $7.17. She's going to play a welfare mother. And she said she can play anything. Send for her. 2 days after I arrived, she died. It was interesting to me, once again, from a racial point of view, because there was a cliche in the mind of those that were putting this package together, that a welfare mother looked a certain way, behaved a certain way, and had a certain temperament. And I said, that's just not true. Everybody can fall on hard times. That doesn't mean at some point in her life she didn't think that she would have something more glorious in life. It turned out this way.
So you were able to open people's eyes about what a woman who is on welfare looks like or is supposed to be like.
She
or
can
supposed
look
to
like her. I
talk
mean,
like.
my mother and father had rooming houses. I saw people that looked like everything. You know, they came through, and I didn't have cliches in my head like that. Some of the prettiest women I've ever seen in my life were welfare women. And not all stupid. You know, they were really just, it wasn't working. Life wasn't working for them.
Okay, now I have to go back to the dish for a minute. David Frost? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once again, you know, I've been very fortunate.
Yes, you have.
Yes.
I would not disagree.
But I'm saying that because I've been fortunate that I've been involved with intelligent men. And men that had a sense of purpose. I may have gone off track once or so, but for the most part, I'm very proud of my relationships. I'm very happy that I had them.
Be honest in the comments. Who do you think she was talking about when she said she may have gone off track once or so?
David was brilliant.
You didn't seem at all alike.
Oh, really?
Well, you know, I'm watching it in an armchair. What do I
Yeah,
know?
that's right. Well, we like so many things, the same things.
You were quite a power couple there for a while, but you never got married.
No. He should have, I said, you need to have children. You want children. I don't want children. I have a child, and I love her to death. And I think you really need someone. He said, you have my baby. I said, well, no. But we had so much fun together. I really want everyone to understand that. This was not a fake relationship. We really had a good time.
But you did marry again.
I did. You know, you ask me that all evening. Yes, I did.
You just have to keep track. Robert?
DeLeon.
Yes.
From Chicago. And once again, brilliant. I think he was in college when he was 14. And stimulated all of the, also he lied. He lied about his age. And I thought
How much younger was he?
About 15 years.
Ooh.
About 15 years. And anyone who knew Robert will tell you that he was really an old person. He had a great mind and very, very, very manipulative. I found out later how much younger he was. But I want to just admit something here. Getting married, obviously, was not the most important thing in my life. You don't do it 4 times if you've given the proper thought, the proper examination of what it means to be married. You don't do it 4 times. I was doing what I thought people do. They get married and they try to make it work as best they can, but I didn't get the information about what marriage is really all about until later in life.
Now, of course, I'm one of these people who believes that everything you do in life prepares you for what you're about to do next. And everything you've told us about so far, I think, in some ways, prepared you for the role of Dominique Devereaux
I think so.
in Dynasty. How did you get that role?
I realized that these things were on the air at night. They were just silly. They were absolutely silly. But everybody was having such a good time.
Absolutely.
Dallas and Falcon's Crest and Dynasty and all a lot ado about nothing, you know? I said, well, that's for me, because
These people are pretending like they didn't actually watch this, but we know they did.
Sure you did. It was fun. Why not watch it? And so I was talking to my manager, and I said, would you please tell Aaron Spelling that I want to be on Dynasty? And he said, okay, what else would you like to say? I said, I think it's time for them to have the first black, the B word.
Rhymes with?
Bitch. On television. And Aaron loved it. And what they asked, how do you see this woman? And I said, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write this role and keep it in mind that you're writing for a rich white man. Forget all about me. I'll come in at the end. But I think you must write for, because that's, first of all, that's your forte. That's what you do well. And if you start trying to accommodate the color of my skin and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da, we're gonna have nothing.
People were gonna figure out you were black anyway.
Anyway, you know, I have that way when I walk on camera. I look very black. But they said, we'll try it. We'll see how it works. And it worked.
You always are doing this, but you kept tapping into all these new audiences. And I find it interesting because one of my favorite roles that you played, which is, you know, you had to blink or miss it, but you were on a different world. You played Whitley Gilbert's mother, perfect casting, opposite Patti LaBelle, who played Dwayne Wayne's mom.
How do you remember all
I know it all. But I want to know how that happened.
Oh, my niece was executive producer of A Different World, and so I was very aware of it. She called and told me that she thought this was very important. I said, please, this is for kids. This show is not. She said, no, not really. She said, I think you're going to love it, and I think we'll introduce you to it. And I said, those are the words I wanted to hear. I think you may be right about that. So it worked immediately. Whitley was most assuredly my daughter. There was no doubt about that.
This is a role played by Jasmine Guy, everybody will remember.
That's right. And then I did one or two episodes with Patti, and it was always fun to be on the set. But I want to tell you something very important about A Different World. A Different World was Diahann Carroll's first experience walking on the lot. And I saw the space that was reserved for A Different World. It was a real space on that lot. It wasn't a makeshift. It wasn't, we're going to be here for 2 weeks or 13 weeks, and the show is off. It was theirs. They owned it. All of the young people working on the show had their cars and their homes and a job that they knew they were coming back to the following season. They were secure. I don't even think I was positively pleased about how secure they were. Because I didn't feel that they understood what it took for that to happen, because I had never seen it. Those children had heard my name. They didn't know the bricks I had to lay and the walls I had to kick down, and so that they were there.
They weren't even particularly aware they had walked through the doors you had opened.
They really were not. Some of them were, but most of them were not. And as I stayed and I watched them at the end of the first episode, I said to them, I want to speak to all of you for just a moment. And I told them they'd given me my first experience in all my years of seeing a black show, a show about black people that had a real, not make-believe, but a real place on that lot, and that they had their homes and their children and their cars, and they were really working actors in Hollywood. I had never been around it. And I know a couple of them were saying, why? What do you mean? How is... I said, we weren't even welcome on the lot when we did Porgy and Bess or Carmen Jones. Everybody on the lot knew we were just there for a matter. Put up with them, you know, they'll be gone soon. But that's not the way it felt when I did A Different World. I was so grateful to have that experience.
Well, so were we. You probably don't do this because you're living your life, but if you watch your life and the way it's gone, it's interesting how you keep taking these leaps into different directions that shock us a little bit. To me, one of your most shockingly successful roles was in Eve's Bayou.
Really?
Which I loved your role. You were not yourself. I didn't know that was you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you see it? You should rent it. Why did you do this small independent film?
Oh, I had to do this small independent film. Look at the people who were involved. Samuel Jackson, Lynn Whitfield, and Debbie Morgan. Yes, I wanted to do. I wanted to see what they're doing. I wanted to be a part. You know, you have to stay in there in the business in order to know where you are going to make your next leap.
Having our say.
Yes.
You were noble in that play. In fact, it was a play that completely, it's almost everything comes full circle. When we talk about your grandmother and we talk about the kinds of lessons that she taught you, these women in this play were saying that same sort of thing, except to a broader audience.
Yes.
And there you were.
They were these extraordinary women, as you know. And I think I was 103. The role was, of course, important to me because of a woman coming out of the South, these women, with an education. And one of them became, I think my character became either a dentist or, but they were professional women. Mm-hmm. They didn't marry. They were married to, that's what I'm saying to you about myself. They understood that they were married to their lives. They were married to progress, they were married to moving on, and they lived together until the day they died. They were extraordinary.
But during this whole period, your singing career, you never stopped singing, even now. You never stopped singing.
No.
Was that to you always the backbone? Was it the fallback? Was it your reason for being?
Well, Gwen, you know, you never sell the grocery store.
Excuse me?
Always hold on to the grocery store or the candy store, whatever it may be, that put your foot in the door. And I think in the last few years, I've come to the conclusion that maybe at this age, I should back away a little bit. But I love to sing.
But why would you?
Why would I back away? Gwen, you do know that I'm going to be 70 years old, right?
No. That's not an answer.
Yes, it is. You may think it's not an answer. You wait until you get there. And also, I'm a grandma, so it's your priorities change. You know, I love it, and I don't want to let go completely, but I certainly don't want to work the way I used to work. It was, and the body makes you pay for, you know, my gowns were this big, and even when I became this big, I put myself in a gown that was this big. And that's not the healthiest thing to do. So down the road, sometimes you have to pay a price for that.
In 1998, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah.
What kind of a impact did that have on you?
There is no one that ever wants to hear you have cancer. It changes everything around you at that moment, at the very moment that you hear it. And you recognize that the doctor is actually speaking to you. I learned about my cancer on the telephone. It's surreal. You know, am I really standing here? Am I really talking? Is this real? And then he said a kind thing. He said, you're very fortunate because you're in the early stages. And that's why I started speaking around the country, because I want everyone to understand. I get a mammogram every year, and during that period, I started getting mammograms more frequently.
Tell me about something in your life that you had to overcome.
But it's a very lonely place, very lonely. In my situation, people who are in show business, I know lots of women in show business who've had breast cancer. They don't talk about it. It affects your saleability.
So why did you decide to talk about it?
I thought it would be helpful. I thought that women would look at me and say, she's out of it. She went through it, she lived through it, and she's out of it. And it would be not so horrendous. You can, if you take care of yourself and you are the kind of person that believes in having your mammogram. Early detection means everything. You know that. I'm sure you've heard. And I wouldn't be sitting here without early detection.
And you are cancer-free today?
I am cancer-free today.
That's
wonderful.
God. In 2001, we were all sitting at home rooting for Halle Berry, watching the Oscars. And when she won, she had that amazingly emotional tribute to the mothers who had gone before, basically to you, among others. Where were you? Were you watching that? Did you fall off your chair?
Yes, I did. I fell right off my chair. There's so many people who never think about the fact that Dorothy was nominated and I was nominated, and it's not important because we know it's a part of a bigger package of unhappiness.
Right.
You know, it's a part of a package that says, damn, are they ever going to acknowledge us in these areas that make such a difference in the way you are allowed to enjoy your career and enjoy your artistic, something that God gave you that you want to go on and explore it wherever you possibly can. So you put those things out of the way. They're just too much to handle. I don't believe in dealing with too much pain. It'll just a bit, enough to keep my feet on the ground. But other than that, I don't want to know about too much pain, too much discomfort and unhappiness. So I was shocked when this beautiful little girl stood there and said, and thank you to Dorothy Dandridge and Diahann Carroll. I thought, look at that, she did her homework.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to her about it? And
Yes.
what did you say to her?
I told her how deeply touched I was, and that I was glad that I loved her before, because now I really loved her. Hallie looks up to people who have been around for a long time, and I appreciate that about Hallie.
And how much has changed in the business since you got into it?
Oh, the business has changed incredibly. The culture has changed. People, I mean, our values have changed. It's not the world that I recognize.
In what way?
We've become so immersed in the actor that makes $20 million a movie that there are practically no films worth watching, spending time in the theater. And I don't know how television has spiraled down to this condition that we have at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do understand it. I just don't like the answers I come up with. I come up with the answers that we're watching something called Idol, or whatever it's called. The reality shows.
American Idol, Survivor, all of that stuff.
Right. But, you know, if we just examine it for a moment, it's the most sensible way for the producer to make a living, because he doesn't have to pay any actors.
Exactly.
He doesn't have to have a set. And he will lull us even further into a non-thinking people. And while he gets richer doing it, you know. So there's too much of that on television. That's what television is basically today.
Before we end tonight, I do want to bring us back to where we began. I was talking about how little black girls see women like you, women like me. So, little black girl comes up to you and says, "Oh, Miss Carroll, I really want to do what you did. I want to be a star." What do you say to her?
First, I always say, I don't give advice. I don't know what to tell you, because I don't know you. What information can I give you? I can't. And the next thing I say is, if you want to be an actor, move to New York City. Don't go to Los Angeles. They have a machine out there, makes little blonde girls, long stringy hair, and they have wonderful careers. And you don't fit into that thing. When they get ready for you, if you are prepared and you've worked in the areas that I have great respect for in the theater, go home. That's what Marlon Brando told me. Yes.
Go to LA, use it for what it's worth,
and get out of there.
but use New York to learn the craft.
And live.
And you're really done?
Well, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I cannot tell you what a thrill it's been to have this conversation
Oh,
with
I
you.
feel the same way. Do you realize if you weren't on the air, we wouldn't have any news? Everything else is just show business.
Okay. It's all downhill from here for me. Thank you all very much, and thank you so much, Diahann Carroll.
I have to say, I thank you for accepting to be here, to be bothered with me for this hour.
Thank you.
The party's over. It's time.
Diahann Carroll has played in many movies as well as TV shows. Now, I'm not going to go through all the movies, but a few of the TV shows consist of Julia, Dynasty, White Collar, and A Different World. Now, out of all the things that she's ever done, tell me, what's your favorite? What is it about her that you didn't like? And as always, don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.